I was only 22 when I accepted what seemed like a simple overnight dog-sitting job that would later change the way I trusted the world forever. Fresh out of college and struggling to find stable work, I was taking on anything that paid in cash just to get by, babysitting, cleaning houses, running errands, whatever people needed. So when a woman I once worked for recommended me to a man named Craig, who needed someone to stay at his house for a week to care for his anxious golden retriever, Max, I agreed without hesitation because the pay he offered was better than anything I had recently earned. When I met Craig, he seemed perfectly normal, polite, friendly, maybe a little too friendly, but nothing about him raised immediate concern. His house sat at the edge of town, surrounded by thick woods that made it feel completely cut off from everything else. The inside looked clean but outdated, with beige carpets, old floral curtains, and furniture that looked like it hadn't been replaced in years. Still, everything appeared harmless enough, and the first 2 nights passed peacefully as I watched TV, took Max out for walks, and slept in the guest bedroom with him curled up at my feet. But on the 3rd night, something felt off. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I noticed a sleek black digital alarm clock sitting on the dresser across from me. It didn't match the rest of the room at all. Everything else looked years old. Yet this clock looked new and strangely polished. Something about it kept drawing my attention until I finally leaned closer to examine it. That's when I noticed a tiny black pinhole positioned just above the glowing blue display. At first, I thought it might be a sensor, but then I realized the angle. It was pointed directly at the bed. My stomach dropped instantly as the thought hit me that it might be a hidden camera. I picked it up with trembling hands and felt how heavy it was. And inside I heard a faint buzzing sound like a miniature fan running. At that exact moment, Max suddenly lifted his head from the floor and began whining toward the door. Seconds later, I heard a door closing somewhere deeper inside the house. Craig wasn't supposed to return until Sunday, and it was only Wednesday night. Then came the footsteps. Slow, heavy, moving across the hallway carpet, and stopping directly outside my room. My heart began pounding so hard it hurt as I quickly set the clock back down and rushed to lock the door. Craig's voice followed moments later, calm, but slightly out of breath, asking me to open the door because he needed something from the room. I couldn't respond. My throat felt tight and my hands were shaking. When I didn't move, he claimed the device wasn't what I thought and insisted it was only a motion sensor for the dog that he forgot to mention earlier. But something about the way he said it made my fear grow even stronger. Then the knocking started. Soft at first, then louder, then pounding. Max began barking wildly as Craig's tone shifted from calm to angry, threatening to unlock the door himself and call the police to report that I had broken into his house if I didn't open it immediately. Panic took over as my eyes locked onto the window. It was low enough to climb through, but locked. Behind me, Craig's pounding grew louder and more aggressive as he shouted threats through the door. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the latch, struggling to get it open while the sound of his fists echoed through the room. Finally, it gave. I shoved the window open and climbed out awkwardly, dropping onto the cold grass below. Max tried to follow but couldn't make the jump. I didn't stop running. Through the yard, down the gravel driveway, out to the road. I called my mom and told her to pick me up immediately. By the time she arrived, I was hiding behind a cluster of mailboxes, constantly looking over my shoulder. The next morning, I blocked Craig's number and contacted a lawyer, but without physical proof of what was inside that alarm clock, there was nothing anyone could do. No evidence meant no case. I never received payment for those nights, and the woman who referred me stopped answering my messages entirely. For weeks afterward, I couldn't sleep without imagining a hidden lens watching me from across the room. Months later, believing I had moved on from the trauma, I booked a quiet rental house for a short weekend trip. The listing looked warm and inviting, though it mentioned that the basement was strictly off. When we arrived just before sunset, the house looked older than advertised and sat isolated with nothing but trees surrounding it. The host, Alan, greeted us with a smile that felt rehearsed and hollow. Inside, the air smelled faintly sweet but stale. He firmly pointed out the locked basement door and told us there was absolutely no reason for guests to go down there. The first night, sometime after midnight, we heard a dull thud from below us. The second night, dragging sounds echoed faintly through the floor. The third night, we heard footsteps low and deliberate pausing between steps as if someone was listening. By the fourth night, everything unraveled when we noticed something strange about the smoke detector above the bed. A tiny black lens was hidden inside. Another was concealed near the bedroom mirror. Both aimed directly at where we slept. We packed our things instantly and drove to call the police. When officers returned with us to the house, the basement door that had once been locked was now wide open. Moments later, they found Alan hiding inside a closet surrounded by glowing monitors connected to the hidden cameras upstairs. He had been secretly watching us the entire time. Since then, I don't trust silence the way I used to. Sometimes, when a place feels too quiet, I can't help but wonder if someone is still there watching from somewhere I can't see.